People who work in human resources, what is the weirdest ST you have seen? I used to work at a staffing agency that placed people at manufacturing positions. Everyone had to be drug tested at the office as part of the orientation. If the P-cup came back as inconclusive, we'd send the potential hire to a medical lab. They would take another drug test and the lab could determine if the person was on a prescription or using illegal drugs, and therefore, not eligible for hire. So one guy failed his drug test at the lab. He came back to the office claiming that it wasn't his fault. He explained that he was riding in a car and he stuck his head up to the window. Then, when the car passed under a bridge, someone threw a bunch of cocaine off the bridge. It hit him in the face, and he accidentally inhaled it. How did you know it was cocaine? Question mark. Quote, by the smell. Exactly the same high. This was in the early 2000s. When people still sent paper applications, I worked for a gaming company. So we got a fair amount of unsolicited applications. Usually young people trying to break into the industry. But this application letter was extra special. It started with, I am in the center of an international conspiracy. Quote, followed by 2 tightly printed A4 pages of the freakiest ST imaginable, researcher. Onto something. Hunted by dark forces. Agent of other unseen forces he fell out of favor with. And a few weird political tangents. Wanted a job with us because he needed to lay low for a while before he could get out of the country. We were suitably freaked out by the mere fact that he had our office address. Chose not to reply and forwarded the whole thing to corporate hour. Female GM banging 3 coworkers at the same time. Fight broke out once everyone found out about it. I had this with 2 VPs banging the same director. Sometimes in the same night. One of them was a cook who was involved with the cartels. He ended up getting deported, then had his head blown off shortly later in Honduras. I'm not in HR, but my sister-in-law used to be one for a large Canadian tech firm. An executive at the company got very drunk at a conference in Vegas and the company got a call from the hotel saying they'd have to pay for outside contractors. He had rubbed his PP all over the walls of his hotel room and the hotel cleaning staff refused to deal with it. The whole rubbing PP on the walls thing is so uniquely strange to me. To some extent I could understand how you could kill someone in a fit of rage or make some other awful mistakes. But that one truly baffles me. What the HL inspires you to rub ST on the wall? You must have truly lost your mind. Not HR, but have been on teams to interview and have input on possible hires. One standard question. What would you do if you were having problems with a coworker? Quote. Answers can include, I would try and work it out, or I would take it to a manager, etc. His answer. I'd take him out back and beat the ST out of him. Quote. He was surprised when he didn't get the job. I had to see a video of a guy who ST himself during work while running to the restroom because his manager wouldn't let him leave a meeting early. The guy had IBD and the manager knew this. So the video show him running down the hall and literally a few feet from the restrooms. He starts SG himself and you see it coming down his leg pant. He looked to be in pain cause he kinda collapsed. And then got back up. People were baffled when they saw this live lol manager equals fired. So definitely the weirdest ST I've ever seen. Literally. I learned from an early age not to listen when someone acts like you need their permission to go ST. Same here. Last time I remember asking for permission was while attending class in high school. Glad the manager got fired for that. One of the dumbest things. An employee that worked night audit at a hotel parked his car at the entrance and would occasionally go out there to drink a bottle of vodka in full view of the cameras. He didn't even sit in his car to drink. Just grabbed the bottle out of the car each time and drank in the open. Seriously. He could have put it in a water bottle and drank at the desk and would have not been caught as soon as he was. If at all. The maintenance guy had been living up above the ceiling of the building. He had built a little cubby living area with electricity and a small fridge and everything. Edit. For years. Hey. That happened at the university where I used to work. Guy had had a nasty divorce and set up a cot in the basement under the structure's lab. Dunno how he tolerated that. It was loud from big-ass hydraulic pumps running all the time and probably averaged about 35 degrees Celsius. Plus, the ceiling was about 1.5 meters high. The floor was covered in grime and oil. And the place stank. He was gone before I started. But I heard he'd been living there for a few months before getting caught. At the university where I work, they found a homeless woman living in an unused office. Kind of smart, actually. Not now, of course, with universities shut down. But generally universities are safe places. Well patrolled, with clean restrooms and students dropping change and abandoning uneaten food. During normal times, there's always a bake sale or hot dog sale going on. Almost every day there's an organization offering free pizza if you go listen to their talk about HPV. Careers, Jesus, or trends in the energy sector. If you get bored, there are free concerts and talks. And no one will notice you in a crowded lecture hall. Or you can just go read books or magazines in the library. Keep yourself clean and tidy. And you can be homeless a long time at a university. Keep yourself clean and tidy. And you can be homeless a long time at a university. Time for a game of Professor or Hobo! Exclamation mark. I'm faculty. Myself. It's accurate enough. I worked closely with HR in a call center. You'd get some crazy stuff. Guy that carried a cooler every day was wiping ST on random walls and desks. It was his ST in his cooler. We thought it was his lunch. He got caught when he wiped it on the front desk directly inside of the camera. Another guy had a colostomy bag that he refused to empty when it got full. You would find these trails of liquid poo randomly, and we had to throw out 4 chairs that he ruined. He was fired quickly and tried to claim discrimination because he was a veteran. You'd also get a crazy amount of period stains on chairs. Look, it happens. But when it's the same few people. And we have free sanitary supplies in the bathroom. You know they just don't care. This reminded me of a contractor on a project I also worked. Friend of mine worked in our. She told me someone was urinating in their cube. They had moved this contractor a few times because his cube would start to smell of urine. Guy claimed he had no idea what was causing it. Company would move him, have area professionally cleaned, and process would start again. After the 3rd move they put cameras up. Turns out contractor would take a coffee cup to the bathroom, urinate in it, and then return to cube and pour it out on the floor. He was fired and escorted out with his cup. But like why? Why'd he go through all the effort to go to the bathroom then bring the pee back? Why couldn't he just pee on the carpet in the first place? Probably because it's easier to deny. I don't know. I mean, the guy clearly wasn't normal. We had this new hire. I heard about him through the grapevine. He was fired from his last job for masturbating in the break room. Somehow, he was hired to my company. God knows why, because I haven't heard a single good thing about from anyone ever. His job was to sweep the floor of our factory. That's not back-breaking work. It's pretty much endless. But you can take it slow and have time to chit-chat with other employees and roam around. We have retired and disabled people who do that job, and they are fine with it. In the first 3 weeks he was there, I got so many write-up. Extended break time. Job not done after multiple request. Smoking on the job and not in designated area. Constantly on his phone. Complaint. Racist, sexist joke. Body odor. OSHA violation. Not wearing PPE. About him. It was hard to keep track. So I did what I always do. Fast track his termination and send it to the head of our. I hear nothing about it until a few weeks later. I start receiving complaint about him again. I go see the head of HR, asking if those were just delayed paperwork because in my mind he was fired weeks ago. Turns out, he was never fired. He was the nephew of the head of our. She transferred him to another department. She took every complaint about him directly. Except one that got to me. He was now a security guard. But not like you see in music festival. He was a button operator. He operated the button to let the people in the factory and kept track of everybody that entered or left the site. He was under training with the sweetest old lady there is. Everybody, even the CEO, call her grandma because she just so sweet. I encounter grandma on break one day and she looked disturbed. It was not her usual break time. So I ask her what she's doing in the break room alone so early. She tell me it's new hire. Personal time. I ask her what she mean. She tell me, well, you know, I made lots of complaint about it. Haven't you read them? I say, no, none of them got to me. She looked disturbed and almost like crying. She then tell me, since he was transferred to her, he noticed there was a computer at his post to log ins and outs. Bear in mind, this computer does not connect to the internet. Well, the second day, while grandma was gone to the bathroom, he started masturbating with PN he brought from home on a flash drive. She caught him and he acted like it was no big deal. In the weeks that followed, he continued to ME on the job to the point where he would not even stop when grandma caught him. He told her, I don't give AFK if you watch. But if you don't want to see it, just leave. So she made a schedule where every 2 hours she would leave for 15 minutes for him to do his business. I was PD and went straight to the head of HR with it. I told her that grandma had gotten a lawyer and was threatening to sue the company. I knew it was false. But that's the only thing that could make things move. The matter was transferred to the legal department and he was fired that very morning. The head of HR still argued that without proof, we could not fire him. The meeting ended with her storming out and saying, fine, do whatever you want. She quit a few months after that. I can't fathom sticking up for any family member or friend like that. I'm pretty sure I'd smack them on the back of the head and say, get your ST together. I'm glad our left because she sucked too. Yeah, me neither. I understand wanting to give people a second chance. But masturbating in front of an old lady at work? That's FD up. Years ago I worked HR for a retail store. A manager would always clock out on time, however the alarm wouldn't be set until about 30 to 45 minutes after he clocked out. Since we had a lot of trouble with internal theft, we assumed he was stealing. Loss prevention approved the installation of cameras across all stores, but we were told not to talk about it to see if we could catch any internal theft. The way the ceiling was set up, the cameras weren't too obvious, but if you knew what to look for, it was quite noticeable. Anyway, turned out this dude was banging a co-worker who was 16. He was 25, expecting his first child with his wife. I didn't see the footage, but our regional manager of loss prevention did and had to turn it over to the police. The real kicker is the girl's dad was a captain on said police force. Edit. I'm not sure what happened to the guy. Unfortunately, I didn't sit in when LP interviewed him. According to my district manager, the authorities were notified, but I'm not sure if he was arrested after the interview was finished. We weren't allowed to discuss what happened, but word got around. This was in Texas and the age of consent is 17. And the female had just turned 16 a few months prior. As for her, she officially resigned, and last I heard she became a nurse. Who was taking the stuff? A few employees who were promptly terminated. The most common thing they all did was put clothes into bags without scanning the item at the POS. Dudes were walking out with expensive jeans and jackets while only paying for a hat. That manager actually didn't steal any items. So I guess he had that going for him. 5 short minutes of lovin' cost me 20 long years in jail. Jim Croce. 5 short minutes. Obscuring a few details here. You'll understand why in a second. There was a mid-level supervisor at a state agency I never got along with. Guy was nasty. Argumentative. Real piece of work. But still had a decent amount of people loyal to him. I come in one day and he's not there. Everyone was distraught. Turns out law enforcement had come after the guy caught him red-handed trafficking child PY. Rather than arrest him immediately, they gave him the option to return home, settle his affairs, maybe call his lawyer. He took the opportunity to simply hang himself in his own garage instead. The next couple of weeks was just damage control among the staff when the details came out. Horrible situation all around. There was a very similar incident at the first company I worked at. Before I started working there, they had an ex-con IT guy who was said to be a little creepy. Apparently the feds came by while he was out and were looking for him. Apparently when he was told about it he freaked out and said he wouldn't go back to prison and left and went home and shot himself. It was suspected he was also involved in CP. Hence the feds. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.